Hi, this is Erin Simon with Assets and Arbitrage. So, we need to have a discussion that people are usually scared to have. But one of the things that we want to express is that sometimes when topics seem off topic, they actually have a direct correlation to wealth building, wealth generation, and wealth maintenance. So I'm going to let hubby today just kind of going on a few thoughts that he's had during the course of the week, some things he saw that concerned him.
Well, yeah, we want to talk about today about being on code, okay? So I talk to people and I hear something far too often that comes up. And what it is in the wealth building process, I hear a lot of back and forth between significant others. I get these messages, hey, I'm really into Bitcoin or this coin, but my wife, she doesn't understand it, so she's not really down with it. Same thing, I'm into Bitcoin, Ethereum, my husband doesn't get it. And what we're trying to say is we have to work together and be on code to build wealth. So even if you don't quite understand it, if that's your partner, you got to roll with them and say, okay, I might not put all my money in there, but I'm going to get with you and we're going to try to build this out. Because a lot of times I'm just hearing even further than that, because we're talking about cryptocurrency, people just dismiss it and aren't even willing to hear you out and say, well, tell me more. Tell me how this works. Tell me how we can invest in building this. They just dismiss it. Now, if you're talking about old traditional ways of building wealth, buying a home, things like that, then yes, people are ready to do that. But when you're talking about these digital assets, I'm seeing a lot of times the couples not working together. So what you really have is you have one person trying to build something and then the other person working against them.
Being counterproductive.
Yes, and that's a big deal. That's why we say stay on code. That's a saying, and we can go into that at a later date. But you want to stay on code with the person that you're building a life with, you have a family with, you're married to, that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You need to build with that person and understanding about how building wealth is a mindset that you like to talk about.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing, and I do want you to briefly just kind of explain to them like you explained it to me, the being on code, where that stemmed from, and what it, like if you had to break it down into a simple explanation, what that really means.
Being on code it's a basic term. It comes from Neely Fuller Jr. The way that he and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing explained it really has more to do with being on code as far as race relations. Yes. But you can always use it and extrapolate it out to other things. So we're saying about building on code with wealth building, right? Understanding we're trying to build this wealth. Understand it's generational. And another thing that it has bothered me, and it's come across a couple times, is that a lot of stuff that we do, building wealth, we will never see the benefit of.
Yes.
Right? It's for the next generation.
Yes, go in on this.
I won't be here when my children or my grandchildren see the benefit of it. So a lot of times people don't want to build the wealth because they're saying, why? I'm not going to see the benefit of it. And so you have to also be strategic in that point and say, I have to be disciplined enough to say I'm going to build this wealth, even though I'll probably never actually get to actualize the wealth, right? But you got to have that discipline and that love for your family and your protege so that you can do it anyway.
Yes. And I think that's really important. One of the other things when we were talking the other day and the content, the idea for the show had come up, you had really sat down and talked to me about the level of consumption in the United States that I think the people in the United States don't realize until they leave. So if you guys notice when you're on social media, you have the mukbangs. So there's this overconsumption of food. There's the Golden Corral, there's Shoney's. There's the Chinese buffets. There's the steak houses.
I think Shoney's out of business. But
Are
okay,
they? I'm showing my age.
Showing
But
your
y'all
age
get
on
what
that
I'm
one.
saying, right? And a significant portion of U.S. culture is eating out, right? And nowadays, eating out, I think you had said to me, and we laughed, you said $100 is the new 20.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
So you're not even eating out for less than, we were out with some friends. It was just the four of us. We had Buffalo Wild Wings, and it came up to like $230. Remember that? I wanted to die. And when we talk about consumption in that terms, we talk about the overconsumption of social media in itself. People can spend hours on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, dating websites, Netflix binging. All of this overconsumption that you guys are being programmed and bombarded to do. And the reason why I bring these things up is because I want you to see that the game they're playing is the system wants to take back what you're making. So yes, many people work for a living. They have great income. Some people not so great income, so they have to supplement it with other jobs. But what the system wants to do is the system wants to program you to take that back.
They're going to take it back. So that's one of the things we talk about with the arbitrage. You'll hear sometimes somebody living in New York City say they make, I don't know, 150 grand a year, which sounds good. That sounds like a great salary. But you have to understand that the city's taking it back. You're not going to get cheap rent. You're not going to get cheap food. You're not going to get cheap Ubers. Everything is overpriced. There is an index that tells you how much money is across the country. And I think the 1.0 index is kind of like San Antonio and Dallas or Austin. So when you go up to New York, it will be rate adjusted. Oh, you make 150 grand, but it spends like 65. And so there's a misconception of how much people are making. But if you could get that 150 grand, work from home, and then boom, you live somewhere else, there's a huge arbitrage. Because that 150 grand on that same scale will probably spend like 1, 2, 3, 4, almost close to $500,000.
Yeah.
So you want to look for these small arbitrages that we're talking about. That's a big arbitrage. If you can pull that off, then you got an at-home job and you make that amount of money, but you can find a place somewhere else that you like, and you could just leverage the US dollar against a weaker currency, you'd be killing it right there.
But I want to run the point of the overconsumption and the system taking the money back to your original point. What's happening is in the United States, even though couples live together, they live very separate lives. You have his and her cars. You're going out with the girls. He's going out with the guys. He's got the man cave. You got your sitting room. It's a lot of money being spent separately. So this is when we talk about getting on code and that solidarity with your spouse in order to generate wealth. We just really want y'all to see the game for what it is. And once you see the game for what it is, your mind's going to change, right? It's a situation where sacrifice is required in this game of wealth building. I'm going to say that one more time. Sacrifice is required in this game of wealth building. And once you get to a certain point, and I'm talking to the ladies, but he's talking to the fellas, right? So I'm talking to the ladies who aren't in solidarity. He's talking to the fellas who aren't in solidarity, right? This isn't a gender war, especially in the space of Kevin Samuels and the women who hate the men and the red round tables with all of that foolishness. When you get on code, the things you do are different. You move different, right? That bag no longer matters. You guys are going to hear me quote a lot of hip hop verses, right? I'm a big hip hop head. My husband has been priming and primping me since I was about 20 years old with all these great hip hop artists and just the art of hip hop. But Nas said, by the time you can afford it, the car isn't important. Right? You begin to see, yes, you could afford the $3,000 Fendi bag, but then you kind of say to yourself, I could afford it, but I'd rather put $3,000 in Bitcoin.
Yeah, we had a conversation. She's always saying that I don't spend enough money on myself.
I be on him, y'all.
So a few months back, probably about 6 or 8 months actually, looking at it, getting a new car, and I was like, oh man, maybe I grab a little sports car. So I looked around, I'm looking around, I'm seeing the prices. And yeah, I could go grab one, but I'm like, nah, I rather have more assets because it's just like she said, it's just not important
But
now.
I'm going to say
It's
this,
just not
right?
important.
In our personal case, because as a spouse, you do want to have the balance. This is not a
Mm-hmm.
relationship show. We're not going to take it there, but we have to have these discussions so we can progress.
Mm-hmm.
He sacrifices to the point of almost martyrdom. And I, as his wife, don't like that, right? He's in the watches. I support, get a watch, get this, get that, right? But keep in mind, he does the sacrifice. And then as for me, I'm a woman. Back in the day, I used to shop. I used to love purses.
Mm-hmm.
Look at his face. He's making a face. But I've grown to the point where I understand the goal and the objective. Doesn't mean that I don't get a nice purse from time to time. It means that you scale back and pour what you were using for the one thing into something else.
Right.
We cook. If there's 7 days in a week, we cook 5 to 6 of them.
Yep.
Okay, it's a large family. There's 6 of us. Even in Mexico, eating out for us, over $100 eating out is like, what in the world? Who turned what age today? It's a birthday, it's an anniversary. Something special is happening, right? Because we understand that we have to do nice things as a family. You do fun things. You make purchases. But the system is taking this back.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want the system to take it back in this instance? Yes, it's a birthday. Yes, it's an anniversary. It's Mother's Day. It's Father's Day. And that is the balance that you need when you're working with your partner. I would like to purchase this thing. Now, we have a rule as a couple. You want this thing? You really want it? If you wake up tomorrow morning and that is the first thought that crosses your mind, the purchase of this particular item, go on and get it. I'm going to support you. He's not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. Go on and get it. Mm-hmm. If we have that situation 10 times, I'm going to say 1 or 2 times does that thing be on our mind the very next day.
Right.
Right? You have to incorporate something to balance it. In that moment, you really want this thing. It's really great. You're looking at this watch and you're like, man, that's a nice watch. If you wake up tomorrow morning, that watch is on your mind, buy it.
And I'm years ago, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave Ramsey, but I used to watch Dave Ramsey many years ago. And one of the things he was adamant about was pay yourself first. Right? And so, he was more about like having savings and emergency accounts and stuff like that. But also now in wealth building, paying yourself first would be buying some digital assets.
Or an appreciating asset.
An appreciating asset, right? So if you say, if it's going to be, he always recommended 5 to 20%. So before you buy anything, before you pay any bills, before you do anything, you would go ahead and pay yourself and get that asset. And that's what we're talking about, having that wealth mindset to build these assets, because over the years, you'd be surprised how much you can build up over the years. What is the saying you always say?
A little dutty build a big dam. For my West Indians, that means a little bit is much.
A little bit is much.
For people who grew up in the church, little is much in the kingdom of heaven, right? They say that, this anthill can turn into a mountain, like all of these sayings. Slow and steady wins the race. Mm-hmm. But I love that he had brought up this point this week, because 2 minds are better than 1. Right? Mm-hmm. 2 incomes builds faster. If you have girls' night twice a month, maybe have it once a month, but the money you would have spent in that second girls' night, let that go towards the income. If the guys are going, if the fellas is going to watch the game and y'all, it's the NBA finals, we're going to watch the game twice this week, maybe I only go out once this week, take that money and put it in what it needs to be. You're going to hear about digital assets, but you're always going to hear me say an appreciating asset, because we do talk about precious metals. Precious metal is a property, silver, gold, that you can transfer without big hubba-balubba paperwork, legal work, this and that and the third. It's property you can transfer to your sons, to your daughters, to your nieces, to your nephews, your grandchildren right now, just like you can the Bitcoin from wallet to wallet. Mm-hmm. So understand, when we're talking, we are talking about not letting the system take it back from you. Mm-hmm. The idea is to build something and keep it. If you guys work 40 hours a week, when my husband was a firefighter, his pay period was 96 hours. That was
96
the
hours.
standard
96
pay period.
hours.
My
Yep.
husband was gone. He worked a 24-hour tour. He was off 48.
Mm-hmm.
And would come home and take care of the kids and do all the stuff that needs to be done in the house. Shout out to my firefighters, especially Cincinnati Fire Department. But understand that that's labor. That's back-breaking labor. When you don't feel good and the firefighters got to come get you, they got to put you on the stretcher, the gurney, they got to take you to the hospital. If people are dying, they have to do the chest compressions, car accidents, the trauma that they see and have to internalize. This is back-breaking, mental-breaking labor.
And that's why you hear in this Bitcoin community, you hear people like Michael Saylor refer to Bitcoin as monetary energy.
Yes.
So what he's basically saying now, he's a aeronautical engineer, so he comes from a very scientific standpoint when he's talking about it. But he's basically, what she's saying is talking about moving the energy that you spent to make that money across space and time, right? You want to take all the energy you spent, put it into something that appreciates, so when you quote unquote unlock that energy across some space and time, you've gotten more value for what you did. You don't want to break your back for dollars that are depreciating every day, because now you have less than what you actually were working for back then.
You said it was a timely.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if Robert Breedlove, he calls it time theft.
Time theft.
Time theft, because as you have to work more hours to get more dollars as they print it and depreciate the dollar. So you want to also look at it as locking your energy away to be used at a later date. And especially, like she's saying, if you got to do backbreaking, or even if you just got to go to work where you hate it, you might not be
mental.
Going,
it's a mental break.
So that's mental breaking of you. You're sitting in an office cubicle and you hate the people you work with, and you put up with that. You want that money to go somewhere so that it actually productive and does something for you later. You don't want it to just be bleeding out and leaking out like that. So keep that in mind. And what else are we talking about?
But I want to run this back to his original point. So everything we're talking about today is going to run back to the original point. You cannot look at your husband. You cannot look at your wife who leaves that house every day working hard. They come to you. They tell you, I want to build something for us and our family, and you're not on board with it. And we wanted to explain it in this way because now you cannot look them in the eye and say, I can't get with your program. I don't believe in this. I want to go to the mall and buy some hair. Black women, I'm talking to y'all, right? You guys would spend $700 on an installation. Not to mention the $200 that it costs to get it put on your head and the maintenance of it with all of the product that we buy. They say that the hair industry, the nail industry, eyelashes, eyebrows, that is a almost $1 trillion industry. It's a $1 billion industry, but oh my God, the BBLs, all of the surgery that women are paying for now, all of that money could be going to something productive. And I'm not judging. I don't want this to be judgy. We're not going to be over righteous or anything. We just want people to look at it differently. Right? Getting the $700 installation, I'm going to look at that just like if you're eating out too often, right? If you're giving it back to the Cheesecake Factory, if you're giving it back to brunch on Sundays, if you're giving it back to Foot Locker, if you're giving it back to Chanel, the system's taking that back from you. And it's something that you can make productive and grow, but it takes that solidarity to grow it.
And just, I want to bring up another point. You have to understand, as you have your prime earning years, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Right? So maybe, I don't know, given the years, maybe 20 to 65 are your prime earning years. So take advantage of those, because as you get older, you won't be able to go out and you can't get a second job in your 60s, right? So now is your prime earning years. If you can work 2 jobs, if you have opportunity overtime, you take those opportunities, but you take that income you got and you put it into the wealth, because you're going to come to a point where you can no longer actually go out here and earn large income. right? You might be able to get a little job or something, but it won't be like it was in your prime earning years. So take advantage of your prime earning years and put more away. That's why I say you might sacrifice during your prime earning years and put more away. And then when you get to your older years, you can actually enjoy the wealth you've built. And then maybe you could, indulge a little bit,
Yeah.
do whatever you do. But take advantage of your prime earning years, especially if you got physical jobs, because they'll beat you down, they'll break you down, and then you can no longer earn in that capacity. So always think about your prime earning years, and if you have, like peak income place, this is a good time to start taking off more and put more into my wealth.
Right.
And even like the basic people would tell you, if you get a promotion, a raise, don't even change your lifestyle. Act like that money was never there and put even more of it away. And just keep your same lifestyle. If you get a $20,000 promotion, no need to go get a better car, really. I mean, put that excess money away. And that way, when you get older, you can indulge a little bit. You'll have enough money to get you through the rest of your life. Because, we talked about Social Security. We're not sure if it's going to be there for people in our generation
Right.
and younger. So we can't rely on Social Security because we're unsure.
Right.
So you have to have yourself squared away so that if the government can't do it, you'll still be okay.
And the last point, well, one of the last points, to run it back to the original point that you made, is when we give it back to the system, we're giving it back to people who are building wealth for their legacies, right? The Chanel company, they have legacies. LVVH, they have legacies. Chase Bank, right? When you don't manage your bank account properly and they're hitting you with the insufficient funds fee and they're charging you to have a checking account, the Chase family, their legacies. All of these people who are the Cheesecake Factory people, I'm just naming restaurants that people love, but the idea is that when you give it to them, that's what they're doing with it. When you should be doing that for yourself. So we just want to kind of show you a different way to look at it. It's nice to have nice things. It's nice to indulge from time to time. We're not saying don't do it at all. We're saying that if you do it into excess, which many people in the U.S. do, you're basically giving them the money to build, generate, and maintain their wealth for their children when you could be doing that for yours.
And what she's talking about also is when you leave the U.S., you see how much excess consumption there is, because you'll start looking around and you see abject poverty. And you're like, damn, we just need the basic stuff. These people don't even have the basic stuff. So then you get that, it takes a little while, but after a while, you don't even want to spend on excessive things. It's because it's just not necessary. And even this younger generation, the kind of minimalist, they don't want that many belongings. They just need a few things to live and get by. You see, I don't know if you guys are familiar, I see stuff like the van life.
Tiny houses.
People living in vans and tiny houses. So they kind of understand that too much consumption. We have too many things. And we learned that personally when we left the United States. We had, a huge garage sale. And all the stuff we had to get rid of. And it's just like, man, we got stuff from 15 years back, and we got to get rid of this and get rid of that. And once you got rid of it all, it was a process, because it kind of wore you down. Like, damn, that's my favorite, chair I had, and you got to get rid of your lawnmower. But once you got rid of all this stuff, you were like, okay, I needed that. That was kind of like therapeutic. And then once you start moving around in other countries, you just realize you don't need as many belongings.
Yeah.
And the things that you like, when we have extra money, I say, hey, let's just go get some assets. I don't want anything. I don't want no extra stuff. I don't want more stuff to bring home. So we just, I might have excess assets, but that's a good thing, right? Excess assets, but not excess belongings that really, when you sell them in the garage sale, you're selling them for like
nothing, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, I sell my lawnmower for $20 because what was the alternative? If he didn't buy it, then it would just sat there. So I say, I'll take $20.
But it's also basically I'm transferring the behavior from one thing to another. So instead of transferring to consumption, you're transferring in a sense to generation. And then when we talk about Bitcoin, it's really regeneration, because this thing is going to appreciate, it's going to grow. It doesn't go away to nothing. Um, there was one more thing. Oh, so we're talking about being in solidarity with your significant others, spouses, so on and so forth. But I do want to address the single people who are building. It is important that you choose your mate wisely, right? Eyes wide open, not eyes wide shut. Mm-hmm. Because when relationships turn into dysfunction, got it a frame, babe.
Oh, sorry.
When relationships turn into dysfunction, it costs you money, mm-hmm. right? Anytime a mistake is made, it costs time, it costs money. So I want to choose my words very carefully as I say this. Wow. If you're looking for a long-term mate, look in the right places, right? Not saying you can't meet your mate in a bar. I'm just saying the likelihood of that panning out into something, right? You just want to just be aware of these things, right? We want to meet like-minded people, especially if you're later on in the game. It's important that you find ways to meet that person and minimize wasting time, I want to say.
Wasting time, because that's the...
Wasting time, you're wasting money.
Well, wasting time. Time is your most valuable asset. Yeah. You can't get any of it back. So you don't want to waste too much time. Also, if you're building wealth, had you started building by yourself, you got to understand if it's not right, mm-hmm. you're going to have to split your wealth and mm-hmm. give a lot of wealth away to third parties
in the process. Yes, let's talk about it.
And people still sitting on Prince's whole estate, right? His family can't. Franklin? Yeah, the only person, I read a story, the only person who's getting money from Prince's estate is his lawyer. His family can't get none. He didn't have a wife. He didn't have any children. So all the money and all the things he did, it's almost going to go for naught, right? So that goes back to a show or two we had before about having your affairs in order. Have your affairs in order to where this is where my wealth goes. This is who has access to it, right? It's just, mm-hmm. it's about being strategic. We're always going to talk about being strategic. I'm always going to bring up chess. I love playing chess, but it's about being strategic. You can't have that amount of wealth and not have the paperwork right. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it. I mean, people, if all you got to leave somebody is $10,000, you got to have the paperwork right, because third parties will get in there and chip away at it. They'll eat at it. And so, it's always about being strategic, thinking 6-7 moves ahead. If you don't have children, like she said before, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, godchildren, just keep it in mind of where it's going to go. And I know we always talk about it. People think they're going to live forever, mm-hmm. but any day could be your last day. Mm-hmm. So make sure your shit is tightened up.
Everything's in order.
Everything's in order, because anything can happen to you. And then once it does happen and it wasn't tightened up, state get involved, probate, and all of a sudden, all the stuff that you worked your whole life to build mm-hmm. is tied up in a third party, and the people that you need to get it to can't access it. Right. So we always want to be, forward thinking about that, working together, teaching people. Hey, even if, for example, if I'm the one who invests the money, but I still teach the family so that if I'm not here, they know what to do. It's not like, the person who did that ain't here, we don't know what to do. It's like, no, I taught you what to do. So when I'm not here, you go ahead and do it.
I can't tell you how many men die. Their wives have no idea. The bills, the money, if there were, they don't know what to do. Especially older traditional families. The husband dies and the wife doesn't even know where to start. Mm-hmm. So in the case where you get a significant amount of money, you don't know how to manage it because you've never had to do it before. And you don't understand the nuances of managing a household, the bills, making sure there's money left over. There's a skill to that people simply, you don't learn it in school. right? And if you don't do it, you won't know how. And there's a lot of people who do it every day and don't know how.
Yeah.
You got a house, and your bills, and every stuff's crazy all the time. And it just boils down to not understanding how to manage funds, not understanding how to manage the household. We're not going to dig too deep down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We just want you guys to understand the importance of a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
In the big scheme of things, that is supposed to literally be your better half. Idealistically, you want it to work like a business partnership, right? Left brain, right brain, and we come together and we do great things. But you can't have the left brain doing one thing and the right brain doing the other thing, right? That doesn't work, and it has chaotic outcomes. So for those of you who are out there, if you're watching this with your significant other and you simply just don't understand it, we are happy to chat with y'all. Like, that's how serious we are about this. We're happy to chat. If you have questions, let's talk about it. But as a community, if every household strengthened itself, you would need help outside. The government doesn't have to do anything for you.
Right.
Whoever is the president doesn't matter to you,
right,
because you govern your own household and you guys have whatever you have, no matter who the administration is, no matter where you live in the world.
And we learned that because we lived in different countries and we've been here for a long time, that we don't have rights to vote, right? We don't have the right. So you kind of understand that voting is a tool in the toolbox, but you get somewhere else, we can't vote. But what we can do is we talk with our wealth, right? That's why if you go to a place where there's an expat community, you'll find that they have some kind of expat council. They can't vote, mayor, governor, and all that stuff like that.
But they can exact change.
Yes, but they can go to the people and say, hey, this is what we want. And if you don't do it, then we're going to remove
our economic strength from this community.
From the community. And so it's old school style paper bag money. Right? You go to somebody with a little, hey, I need this. That's how it is in these countries. You can't vote. You don't have a say so. In the community we live in a gated community. But the small city we live in, the mayor lives next door, right?
And he asks us all the time.
Yep. So we can't vote. We couldn't vote for him, but he asks us all the time, like, "Hey, is everything all right? Is there anything I could do? Would you like to see some change in a certain way?" And so you can enact change also with your wealth. So it just keep that in mind, that there's, it's different kind of ways. It's what they say, more than one way to skin a cat.
But I'm going to tell you too, right? When you get to a certain point, and boy, I'm probably going to get some comments for what I'm about to say. You have to have a mate. And you get to certain levels, you have to have a significant other, right? You can't be the president with no wife. You can't be a single president. The mayor wouldn't even bother with us if I was just a single woman living here, or he was just a single guy. He really comes and talks to us because we're a very large family. When you are trying to move in certain arenas, having a significant other tells other people that you are stable, that it's a professional thing. Attorneys bring their wives, doctors have their wives. You understand what I'm saying? So, and the idea of that is that your significant other is supposed to bring out a particular character development. For those who have the significant others, we have to get on code with our spouses and stay on code. And like I said, if each household finds a way to strengthen itself, you don't need outside help. Because collectively we'll be strong. Financially, we'll be strong. We talk about certain ethnic communities. I'm not going to mention them here. You guys know who they are. They are a minority in the United States, and they don't do business with anyone else. They only do business with each other. Their economic strength all over the world is solid.
And I'm sure you've heard the statistics about whose dollar circulates around their own community. And our community's dollar doesn't circulate
almost at all.
Barely at all. The numbers vary, but you know.
And the ethnic community I was just talking about, their dollar circulates 10, 12, 15 times. Here in Mexico City, They have their own neighborhood, and it's the richest neighborhood in Mexico City. They don't do business with anybody else. They only do business with each other. And they're all family in some which way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Whether it's through marriage or through blood, it is how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you who grew up in the church, the 12 tribes were a family. They were 12 brothers who had their own families, and we were supposed to come together to be this righteous group.
Yep.
So we have to take some of these aspects and ideas and put them into practice. Yeah. And the number one thing we're seeing is there's a lack in solidarity in the couples in our community. Mm-hmm. So we want to kind of get on code with that. And we understand too why, some people aren't on code, why it's hard to get on code. A lot of times the reason is we don't understand digital assets. We don't understand appreciating assets. We don't understand how the economy actually works. Yep. And then the last thing is that the lure of consumption is attractive. Yep. Right? Going out to eat is fun. The food's delicious. You don't have to wash dishes. You don't have to clean up the kitchen when you're done. You're out with friends. It's a very social thing, especially in a time where we were all isolated for over a year, right? Yeah. Everybody was stuck in the house. It gets boring, so on and so forth. But alcohol is very expensive, right? Buying a drink, this drink's $16.70, right? And then you just put like a little drop of alcohol in it, can't even taste it. So, just the idea that, the new purse is nice until you're tired of that purse. Now you need a new purse to kind of regenerate that new feeling. Clothes, right? You got a closet full of clothes. You're still out buying clothes because you like the idea of having new clothes.
Now, conversely, the arbitrage is if you do like to consume, you can go to these places where the lifestyle is cheaper and you can consume like you like to, but for a lot less and still build wealth with digital assets, right? If you come to Mexico, you can go to places, you get all the clothes and stuff that you need here, but it'll be cheaper.
It'll be a lot cheaper.
You'll save a lot more money, and then you can take those savings and build your wealth with, I'm always going to say Bitcoin, but I throw the term out there, digital assets, whatever coin is your preference. But yeah, you can, but that's why you have to know your lifestyle. As we talked about last show, if you want to move somewhere, take a personal assessment of, well, what is it that I want? And I can go over here and I can get things for cheaper that I still like and save a lot of money. And then I'll have some extra money that I can build wealth for my family and for future generations to come.
And no matter how you boil it down, you just want to begin to develop the habit of putting the money away. Yeah. Right? However you scale back, however you decide to do it, you just want to begin to develop and turn it into a habit. Let's say we got to start there because you have to develop the habit.
Yeah, you turn it in.
And try to transmute some of that behavior from here, balance it out by putting it there. The very last thing we want to mention is because you guys ask us about moving abroad all the time. We're noticing a significant amount of single women hopping in expat groups, social media groups, and basically advertising all of the things you like to do and asking complete strangers if they're willing to meet up with you, right? I laugh when people ask me about the cartel here in Mexico because I say nothing's more dangerous than advertising that you're a single woman here in Mexico City for the first time. Meet me here. We're going to meet up for drinks. You have no idea who you're talking to on social media. That is the danger.
That's the danger. So I'll try to keep it short so we can get up out of here. But the danger is not the cartel. It's not the crime. It's the danger is being here alone. It's not the United States. The police don't operate like that. They don't have your back. If something happens to you, it's kind of like a shoulder shrug. I don't let her go anywhere without me. To the grocery store, I'm her bodyguard. I'm her driver. I drive her to the store. She need to go somewhere, I drive her. And if I can't, I send my 20-year-old son. She can't go anywhere by herself.
But don't be fooled. I can fight, right? Like, he's not worried about that. I'll be ready to fight in a heartbeat. But he is worried about, kidnapping. What if there's more than one?
Yeah.
What if he's just stronger than you? I'm from New York.
So,
you're gonna earn it.
But what she's talking about, this has been a problem for a while.
A long time.
People going in these groups, hey, I want to go out,
Young
I want to
girls,
dance, I want to
beautiful
drink.
girls.
And I say, that gets dangerous.
Very dangerous.
That's very dangerous for the men, right?
Oh, yeah, let's talk jump out boys. Let's talk about it.
Not even that, because the men go to these other countries looking for women.
But the jump out boys come get them.
Yeah, so
that's what I'm saying.
You got to be careful when you're going to these other countries. Like, we would love to see you go with your significant other, your wife, your husband, and
boyfriend,
go as a group. Because when you're out here and you're just kind of searching, people are making you the mark.
Yes.
And they're watching you. And you might think nothing's going on. We could talk about it. I think most of us know what happened to our good brother Timothy Reed over in Colombia when he went over there with a large amount of capital, had met a woman from over there, and he ended up getting murdered.
But he utilized, for those of you who don't know,
yeah.
he was utilizing this young lady he met online in order to help him purchase a commercial building with a restaurant storefront.
Right.
And what ended up happening is multiple parties within that transaction, they got his $250,000 and got to keep the property because they killed him.
They killed him. Too many people knew what he had.
But even on a lower level, for the man.
But that's real quick though. Mm-hmm. He was I don't want to say older, but maybe from maybe a baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things we talk about with Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
You could move across borders, move across nation states with that amount of money and that amount of capital, and nobody knows. But now when you got a building and because when you get the building, you got to deposit it in their bank, and everybody in the town knows that you got all this money.
Plus
and
the
they're telling everybody
that you have to disclose all of your capital to in order to get the trend. They're all in on it.
But when you have a Bitcoin, you could just move across nation states and borders, and nobody knows what you have, and you could just be, lay low. And that's what I like. That's what we like to do. Just lay low, just a regular guy. They still gonna make up stuff like, well, why they got some money? But it's not a building. It's not like, oh, we know, or the bank teller telling people they got this amount of money in their account. It's different, and so Bitcoin helps with that. If you're going to move around different places, you can have your capital and your wealth kind of just quiet. We call it quiet money.
Quiet money.
Quiet money.
Mm-hmm. But even at a lower level, if you see that beautiful woman in Brazil and she's like, yeah, let's go back to my spot back here. How easy is it for her to get the jump out boys to rob you? Even if they just took the money you had on you and your passport and your watch and, they stole your wealth. Right. It is time and money in order to either, get a new passport, buy a new, whatever they took from you, but you could also get injured in the process. You can get killed in the process. And I'm going to run it back to the original point because these are people who are looking for significant others, right? Hot girl summer, you're looking for a significant other. When the men are out in these exotic countries looking for someone to keep them company. We hope she was a woman.
She was a woman? Was she a woman?
I hope so. But that's the other thing, right? You can get yourself in trouble with that, and that can be traumatic. But, we just want to run it back to the idea of when you're making moves, you really want to you want to be self-aware. Mm-hmm. You want to have your head on a swivel, and you want to make good decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody makes mistakes, but we also understand that every poor decision we make costs us time and money. Yes, and a lot of times you don't get that time back. And sometimes you can't get that money back. So we just wanted to bring up these points which surround a very natural aspect of life, which is companionship. So in choosing the right companion, choose the right environment, the best way to do it. If you have a companion, support them if they're building something for you. They love you enough to build something for you and with you, and you want to look at it like that. Mm-hmm. You also want to take under consideration how much labor is involved in what they do every day, whatever it is, whether it's mental labor or physical labor. Mm-hmm. And if they want to build something more, it's because the system is beating them down.
Yes.
And taking it back. Mm-hmm. right? It's basically a glorified plantation at the end of the day, and that's what we're fighting against. You want to make any? I think we made all the points we talked
Yeah,
about.
I just last thing I want to do, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I guess we went a little long.
That's okay. Y'all love us. We love y'all.
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to our good brother Anthony Andrews.
Yeah.
So Anthony Andrews in Houston. Shout out to Anthony.
Houston, Texas.
He came and visited us back in October of 2021 and stayed with us for about a week. Showed him around and stuff like that. That is something that we do. People want to come down and see. So yeah, Anthony came and stayed with us, but he brought us MS70 coin as a gift. So we want to just shout him out. This MS70
camera's not autofocusing.
Yeah,
but...
Cape Buffalo round from Rwanda. So, shout out to that brother, Anthony.
Giving us such a great gift.
Yeah, great gift. And, we love physical silver. We know this is a digital asset channel, but we'll sprinkle set.
But I always talk about, because it's an appreciating asset,
yes,
I talk about it. And it's also property. It's physical property, just like Bitcoin is digital property that can be transferred. So we do want to talk about that. Yes, we have hosting services. They are for very serious inquiries only. If that's something that you guys are interested in, you can email us anytime. But he was so kind to bring us a gift in addition.
And he also bought it was my middle son's birthday. Yeah. And he bought him some digital assets as far as Roblox, right?
Some Robux.
He bought him some Roblox for his birthday. He was happy, he get his little money, because you try to give him some cash, he's like, man, I don't want that, man. What's that? What's that? So yeah, shout out to Anthony, man. Big up, and that's all. We went a little long. I'm sorry, but we just wanted to get that in. But
very important points today. Yeah. This is not a relationship show. We are not going to turn it into that. However, from time to time, we do have to bring these components up when it comes to marriage, relationships, children, because we are talking about wealth building with the understanding that you're transferring that wealth to future generations. So as always, we thank y'all so much for joining us. We thank y'all for y'all kind words. We get the most beautiful emails and comments, and we're so, so grateful to you guys for that. If you guys have questions, we answer every single comment. He makes sure that I don't miss one. So continue to comment, continue to send emails. If there's anything you guys need, you know where to hit us up at. Check out the links below, and we'll holler at you guys on Wednesday.